Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're going to cover some stuff again here. And it looks like I only got 36 minutes left on the memory card, so we're going to have to get into this fast. I got some new dry erase markers, so we should be ready to go here. All right, where are we going to start? Now, I can't even remember where I left off on the last one. I think I was going to talk about the light spectrum and how you've essentially got Lucifer on one end of your light spectrum, the red ray, and you've got Jehovah on the other side of the light spectrum, if you want to conceptualize it like that. That's the way Steiner conceptualizes it, and that's basically the reproduction of those of the Godhead forces in seven, which are the creative Elohim, which breathe across the waters of the deep and solidify creation, essentially. But before I get into that, I was thinking of some things that I wanted to go over and just recap a little bit. And the light video might be a separate video. Let's just go over this real quick. So, just recapping real quick. It's important that we remember the dot, the line, and the circle, because that's really the key that you need to decode just about all of the mythologies. I mean, it really is the key. And it's very fitting that it's the key because it's the symbol for alchemical gold. The dot in the circle is the symbol for gold. The dot, the line in the circle, the dot, the line in the circle, the dot is the Father, the line is the Son, and the circle is the moon. Or to say it a different way, the dot is spirit, the sun is spirit in motion, and the circle is the ultimate range of effects that spirit can affect. Think of it as shining a flashlight, and the beam going out, it's only got its effective range, and then everything fades to darkness around that. So, spirit in motion, matter. Right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Anything you can think of. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Right? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Saturn, Sun, Moon. It stands for the Saturn, Sun, and Moon periods of creation. The first Trinity. The first Trinity. That was the first issue of the Divine Fiat. The dot, the line, and the circle. And then we talked about our involutionary arc and our evolutionary arc, and how Christ was the bottoming out point of the involutionary arc. The cross of Golgotha sits right there, and that's Egypt. He's crucified in Egypt, but he's also crucified up at pineal, the pineal gland. So, we got to remember. Now, this reminds me, it just reminds you where sayings ultimately probably come from. You know, we got to get to the bottom of it. Well, we're at the bottom of it right now. We had to get to the bottom of it so we could try to understand. And what does Jordan Maxwell say? To understand, you have to stand under. You have to get to the bottom of it, the bottom of that evolutionary arc. We're at the involutionary arc, right? at the bottom of the involutionary arc, right there at the rock bottom of things, the rock bottom, right? The rock bottom. That was the foundation of Jesus' church, right? The rock, Peter. You got to get to the bottom of things so you can understand. And to understand, you stand under. Well, what are we standing under? All of it. All of it. All of it. The cosmos. And that is how we know. We stand under it and we observe. And there is a process to all of this. And there's a process for making this make sense. It won't make sense to everybody. I'm well aware of that. And I didn't go through all the preparatory stuff, so this is really aimed at people who already have a pretty good grasp on the esoteric sciences and whatnot. That's just how it kind of happened. So I'm not against making beginner videos either, but this is just kind of how it all unfolded. So to get to the bottom of it, to get to the rock bottom, where Christ's cross is planted, we have to understand. We have to stand under all of it, all of the cosmos. And we also have to prepare ourselves mentally, physically, by trying to eat right, fasting, and, just trying to make good moral decisions. That is part of the preparation. Not that we all do that perfectly. Nobody can, but at least we can strive. It's a ladder we're climbing. We're just trying to make progress. Also, let's get into some of the names. This is quite interesting here. Okay, also I want to cover this real quick. Brahma, right? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva is also the dot line circle. That's an Eastern tradition. I've had people tell me that the Eastern traditions shouldn't mingle with the Western traditions because they're just two totally diametrically opposed systems and they got no business mingling together. But they're telling the same story. Brahma, Abraham is an anagram of Brahma. They're both the Father. The dot always stands for the Father. The line's always the Son, and the circle's always the Holy Spirit. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva is the dot, the line, and the circle. Same concept. And Abraham learned this and brought it to Sumer, or ancient Mesopotamia, or Babylon. I mentioned this in a previous video that I got to see Abraham's ziggurat. It was on the base that I was deployed to, so I got to see that and got to study it and stuff like that, and it was a temple to the moon. Okay. But that was in Sumer, and then things unfolded from there. But Brahma, Abraham is Brahma. It's an anagram of it. And anagrams are legitimate devices that are used in esoteric writing. Initiates would use these to disguise what they were really talking about when they put it into written form and whatnot. Manly P. Hall talks about this in his section on cryptograms and the secret teachings of all ages. And it is a legit device that is used in esoteric writing. So, also here, we've got, this is an interesting point as well. Abraham was Abram before he was Abraham. Well, what changed? Why was the H added to Abram? And there's going to be different angles on this, but this is one of them. So what changed? Well, if we go back to the story of Abram, his God issued him basically a divine command to leave his abode, to leave his parents' house, I think is how it goes, and to go on a journey. Well, once again, what we're what it's recapitulating there to us on one of the levels is the God breaking himself apart, the split God splitting himself apart and giving a part of himself to the lower part. So what changed? What changed to make Abraham? Well, his calling changed. The divine fiat was given to him to go on this journey. Right? So his name changed. Something was added. Okay? It's the same concept of the Tetragrammaton, YHVH, Jehovah or Yahweh, becomes Yeshua when the shin is added. Right? By adding the shin, Jehovah becomes Yeshua. And that when you see it stacked on top, that's the shin is right where the heart is in that particular diagram. So it's just interesting. And what changed there? The divine fiat, once again. The divine fiat for Yahweh to give a piece of himself down unto us. And in this case, it's our moon, which keeps things in material form down here. So let's go back to, I want to cover macroprosophis again in a little bit different light this time. Let me see how much time we've got. Okay. So as we discussed earlier, macroprosophis, or the big face in the sky in profile, is the Father that's above our solar system. It's in the Orion Nebula. Okay? And this is written about by many legitimate esoteric authors. Manly P. Hall talks about it, and many others allude to it. And so that's where the divine fiat to create our solar system was given. Now, any gods that are below the ultimate God are going to be half makers, essentially. And I guess we don't know what comes from above the ultimate God, but there's nothing within reason that we can say that they all aren't that way to begin with, because essentially they all have to give up part of their nature. That's the split head God concept, right? And I've shown the picture just so we can get context for it. This is the Hermetic Museum book by Alexander Rube. It's got a bunch of Hermetic artwork and whatnot, alchemical artwork, and we can see that at the lowest declination, the head is split, and we got to put the head back together. That's referring to, we have to get both sides of our brain working in conjunction because of the curse of Cain, the curse of imbalance. Imbalance to the logical side. But what was Jehovah called? The Demiurge. The Demiurge is the half maker. And isn't it fitting that each version of the Demiurge coming down the chain splits half of himself off so that what's below him may live? He's the half maker in the literal sense, and he literally half makes, and then what's below it has to put it back together once it gets all the way down to the declination, furthest declination of matter, which we are in right now, which actually the turning point was the mystery of Golgotha with Christ on the cross. However you want to take that, whether it's your own prerogative, literally or figuratively, but that is the lowest point in involution. And then we start our evolution and we send it back up the chain to then begin to put these gods back together again. Because they're half makers, because it's not a bad thing. They literally gave up part of their nature to create something below them, creating a chain going all the way down. So the term half maker for the Demiurge, you know, there was some Gnostic sects that took that as a bad thing, but I look at it more in the Platonic view of things, in that nothing's evil, maybe just incomplete. Only incomplete because the chain of gods cared so much that they were willing to break a piece off from them to give us life. And they were chosen through Divine Fiat to be a part of that chain. Just like we were chosen through Divine Fiat to be a part of this whole chain, this whole experience. So, what the rulers don't want you to know is that you are a divine being, and that we're actually going up on our evolutionary arc right now after the turning point of Christ. Here's an idea I had. Now I'm just going to float this idea. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the case on this next speculation here that I have, but I did find it interesting. If you're familiar with the different ages that we go through, you know, some cultures list them differently, but I'm just going to use like Iron Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, and Golden Age, right? So, what I'm wondering is if that actually deals with the position of the face of the god in Orion. They always said Macroprosophis was in profile to the right. I think I've got that right. I could be wrong, it could be to the left, but I think it's to the right. For this purpose, it doesn't really matter. But here's what I'm wondering, because everything has to do with involution and evolution. In our involution, we weren't even into human form yet. We were still evolving during involution. Our form was much different, and our consciousness was much different. We were nothing like we are now. So I surmise that, you know, because everything moves. We're in a galaxy, and we're a solar system within a galaxy, and everything's spinning, wheels within wheels, right? So even the galaxy has its own seasons that it's going through that affect us. Just like our seasons here that are closest to us affect us, but, you know, everything cycles within cycles, wheels within wheels. A galaxy is like a giant solar system of solar systems, right? So everything operates fractally like that. So I'm wondering if and everything deals with angles. The effect that something has on something else has to do with the angle that it's, how do you say? It just has to do with the angle in conjunction with both things. The angle of the thing in relation to you. So right now, Orion is a face in profile looking this way, but what I surmise is on our involutionary path down, the Godhead was probably facing away from us. And maybe not. Maybe he would have been facing us as he gave the Divine Fiat and then turned to one side. That would deal with the one side of the brain. Turn to the other side. That would deal with the other side of the brain. And this is all periods of evolution, ages. Like the 4 positions would be equivalent to the 4, you know, the iron, bronze, silver, and gold. And I might have them wrong too, by the way. Everything's a work in progress. I'll tell you when I think I'm speculating on something. This is just a speculation as to the position of the Godhead, but it would make sense that we would be in different positions in relation to the Godhead, and that if this position that he was in gave us the left brain imbalance because of the splitting in that way, when he's facing the other way, the split would be a different way. We would have been in that other form of right brain consciousness. When his back's to us, that was probably our least evolved form that we were in. And then when we're looking God face to face, then maybe that's like seeing face to face with God. That's possibly like a golden age. That's just a speculation, though, that I had. Feel free to comment on that. Just tell me what you think. Tell me if you think that makes sense or not. Makes sense to me, but anyway. I think we may wrap it up right there on this one, because I don't know if I have time to get into the spectrum one or not. We got a little bit of time left, but I think I might save that one for later. But I want to talk real quick about this. Now, Michelangelo's painting, you can see, I think you can see anyway. Right, you can see part of it. You can see enough of it. So that is the god, Saturn, or Jehovah, or Yahweh, whatever you want to call him, in a brain reaching out to Adam, who's on a rock. And you can see Adam's finger is drooping, but God's is sticking straight out. So Adam has to make the effort, right? And what this is symbolizing is, in my view, this is at the bottom of the evolutionary arc. That's what Michelangelo is symbolizing here. This is the bottom of the evolutionary arc with Adam on the rock. We talked about the rock that the sword is stuck in, right? The sword and the stone. The rock that Christ's church, the foundation, is the rock, right? Peter. So if you look at the involution and the evolution, involution is like this, but when we evolve, evolution, we begin to use our intuitive right brain function in conjunction with logic, with enlightened logic. So what you see depicted here is actually the other profile, not the face and profile to the right here. You see the brain and profile toward the left. And it's a possibility that I made a mistake and that this was supposed to be flipped the whole time. I could have swore I remember Manly P. Hall saying that it was that way. But if not, then I would say that Michelangelo's painting is depicting the evolution. It's depicting that involution has already happened. There is Adam, man, in the perfect material form. Now he has to start his ascent upward and begin to use his right brain. And that's what Steiner said the new form of consciousness is that the right imaginative, intuitive brain would then begin to work in conjunction with our logical function. We always gain something new when we go through the series of the great year cycles and complete a whole series. We gain a new form of consciousness. We descend into matter and lose the forms of God consciousness from all the way up here, because we're emanating from the God mind. We are the thoughts of God. God is creating everything, and us as well. And we get to take part in this. It's an amazing thing that's going on. So, left brain, at the descent, we get the I am, the individuality, and now it's time to evolve ourselves through our will. People like Klaus Schwab think that means to make ourselves cyborgs, but what that actually is sinking lower into matter. They're still in the old frame of mind. They're still in the materialization mode. But we're past that now. We were past that with Christ. But they don't believe in Christ. They don't believe in any of that. So that's why they're behind the curve. Okay? They think they're the elites. Really, we the people are the elites. The people who think they're the elites and try to dominate, they're going to be the stragglers of the next life wave. But they think they're very clever and they think they're getting over on everyone. They're not. They're definitely not. I can assure you that. So, involution, left brain materialization, Lucifer on his descending arc, the splitter. He splits the involutionary arc from the evolutionary arc. And then we know Lucifer is a fire spirit, a sun spirit, just like Christ. Lucifer on the involution splits and then unifies the two on the way back up, and it becomes Christly, Luciferic Christly consciousness on the way up, because we begin to use that, we get that clairvoyance is how Steiner describes it. We were originally clairvoyant, but in an animalistic way. Then we lost it to gain the I am of the left brain logical mind, the individuality. And now Saturn is coming together. That's the conjunction of both things, the marriage between male and female sides. And now we're going to evolve that new form of consciousness and go up the evolutionary arc through our own striving and will, by right living, right acting, and striving to do those things. Like we said, nobody's going to obviously be perfect at this point in time, but we can strive towards it and try to better ourselves. So that is what I think Michelangelo is depicting there, is that new form of consciousness incorporating the right brain and all the symbolisms there. Adam in perfect form on the rock, where the rock's at the lowest descent, and then the right brain side of Jehovah reaching out and waiting for Adam to strive himself and then begin on that path upward again. I also was going to talk about William Blake's painting The Ancient of Days. If we got time, I'll cover that one. We got a little bit of time. Okay, The Ancient of Days. Let's just see if I can take you over here and show it to you. And we also got The Last Supper we'll examine at some point, but let's just look at The Ancient of Days over here. Okay, so we got The Ancient of Days there. Yeah, you can't really see because I got some stuff in the way, but there we go. That's Saturn, Father Saturn in the Orion Nebula. You see those black clouds? That represents the Orion Nebula. And Saturn issuing that divine fiat downward, and the compasses are acting as dividers, dividing the gross from the subtle. Because when you use a compass to make that dot in the center of a circle, like the circumpunct, that is the symbol, that is a symbol, a full symbol of dividing the gross from the subtle. And we can go back to the dot, the line, and the circle to illustrate that, if we remember what they mean. The dot is pure spirit. The outer circumference of the circle is matter. And in between, where the line is, that's the division between spirit and matter. So your compasses actually act as a divider between spirit and matter. Okay? So that's how that works right there. I don't think we have time to go over the Last Supper because that one will be kind of lengthy, but I think that covers it for now. But we will come back probably tomorrow or the next day. I might take tomorrow off and then come back the next day. But that's it for now, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know if you're interested in more of these types of videos. I think this is my third one that I've done today. So I'm going to try to get all of those uploaded in order so you guys can kind of watch and follow along or whatever. And yeah, let me know if you want to see more. I'm always working on this stuff and trying to uncover more. This is not even nearly even close to the tip of the iceberg of all the stuff that I want to cover in this vein of thinking. You know, I'd like to cover different aspects of Kabbalah, astrology, and, you know, just other parts of the esoteric sciences. But yeah, I've also got books on my channel that I read, esoteric books. I've read, I don't even know how many I've read now, 4 or 5 probably. And it's dealing with all these topics. So if you study these videos and then go back and listen to the books by Rudolf Steiner that I read and by Max Heindel and Manly P. Hall, then this stuff will start to make a lot more sense to you. So yeah, go ahead and, you know, check out those other videos too and see if you like those and see if it gets those creative juices going in the brain there so we can piece back together this holy science. Osiris is also the doctrine that was chopped up and scattered amongst all kinds of, quote, different religions, but really they're not different. They're the same. They're just scattered and they're disguised in different clothing. But our job as human beings are to piece the doctrine back together and live by it, and then we can make our ascent back upward. So, all right, that's it for now. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk again.